Picture a company with 50 backend services. Each one exposes its own API directly to the internet. Each one implements its own authentication, some with API keys, some with OAuth, some with nothing. No centralized rate limiting. No unified logging. No API documentation. A partner integration team needs to call 3 of those APIs. They spend 2 weeks just figuring out the authentication for each one. Meanwhile, a bot discovers one of the public endpoints and starts hammering it. No rate limiting. The backend goes down. This is the reality for most organizations that grew their APIs organically. Azure API Management solves every one of these problems at once. It sits in front of all your APIs as a single gateway. Clients call APIM. APIM calls your backend. Authentication, rate limiting, logging, transformation, all handled by the gateway. Your backends see clean, validated, rate limited traffic. No changes to the backend code. APIM has 3 components worth understanding. The gateway is what your API clients actually call. It receives requests, applies your configured policies, calls the backend, and returns the response. This is the runtime. This is what handles traffic at scale. The management plane is how you configure everything. In the Azure portal, you define your APIs, set policies, create products, manage users. Everything you configure here is pushed to the gateway. The developer portal is the self-service face of your APIs. It is auto-generated from your API definitions. Developers browse your APIs, read documentation, test endpoints, and request access keys. All without bothering your team. And the backend's APIM connects to can be anything. Azure App Service, Azure Functions, AKS, an on-premises server, or a third-party API. APIM does not care where the backend is. It just needs an HTTP endpoint to call. Here is the model APIM uses for access control. You group APIs into products. A free product might include your public read-only APIs with a low rate limit. A paid product includes all APIs with higher limits. An internal product includes sensitive admin APIs, only available to your own teams. Clients subscribe to products, not to individual APIs. When they subscribe, they get a subscription key. They include that key in every API call. APIM validates the key, identifies the subscriber, and applies the appropriate rate limits. And here is what this buys you operationally. You can see exactly who is calling your APIs and how much. If one subscriber is abusing the API, revoke their subscription. If a subscriber needs a higher rate limit, upgrade their product tier. All without touching backend code or infrastructure. The approval workflow is equally powerful. Require admin approval before any new subscription is issued. You know every client that has access to your APIs. Policies are where APIM becomes genuinely powerful. A policy is a rule that runs on every request or response. You define it in XML in the portal. It applies without any backend code changes. Rate limiting policy. 500 calls per minute per subscription key. Exceed that, APIM returns 429 too many requests automatically. Your backend never sees the excess traffic. JWT validation policy. Validate the JWT token on every inbound request. Invalid or expired token, APIM rejects it. Your backend never sees unauthenticated requests. Caching policy. Response cached for 60 seconds. Same request within 60 seconds, APIM returns the cached response. Backend never called. Latency drops to single-digit milliseconds. Response transformation. Strip internal headers before returning to clients. Add CORS headers automatically. Rewrite URLs between what clients call and what the backend expects. All of this runs in the gateway. Zero backend changes. Now pay attention here, this one matters for protecting production backends. APIM gives you two levels of traffic control. Rate limiting operates on a short time window. 500 requests per minute per subscription key. A client that fires 501 requests in 1 minute gets a 429. They can retry after the minute window resets. This protects against runaway code and misbehaving clients. Quota operates on a longer window. 10,000 requests per month on the free tier. When the quota is exhausted, APIM rejects requests until the next month. This is how you enforce billing tiers. Spike arrest is different from both. It smooths out sudden bursts before they hit the backend. If your backend comfortably handles 100 requests per second, spike arrest caps the inflow at 100 per second regardless of how many clients send. Excess requests are queued briefly or rejected gracefully. The backend never sees the spike. This one policy has saved many production backends from viral traffic events. The developer portal is the part that saves the most engineering time. When you import an API into APIM, the portal automatically generates documentation from it. Every endpoint, every parameter, every response schema. Interactive, developers can test your API directly in the browser. They fill in parameters, hit send, see the real response. This replaces the internal wiki page that is always 6 months out of date. Because APIM generates it from the actual API definition, it is always current. Developers request subscriptions from the portal. They get their keys, see their usage, track their quota. No emails to your team asking for API keys. No spreadsheet tracking who has access to what. You can white label the portal with your own domain and branding. Customers see your company's portal, not a Microsoft portal. The time saved on API onboarding alone typically justifies the APIM cost. For any organization with more than 10 internal or external API consumers. Let me show you 3 real-world patterns where APIM shines. API versioning without pain. Your V1 API is consumed by 50 clients. You need to ship V2 with breaking changes. Both versions live in APIM simultaneously. New clients use V2. Old clients keep using V1. When all clients have migrated, remove V1 from APIM. No backend logic required to support 2 versions. Legacy API modernization. You have a SOAP service from 2008. You cannot rewrite it, it is too risky. Put APIM in front. Add a transformation policy. Clients see a clean REST JSON API. Behind the scenes, APIM transforms the REST call into SOAP and vice versa. The legacy service never knows anything changed. Backend for frontend. 1 backend, 3 clients, mobile, web, and partner. Mobile needs compact responses. Partner needs different authentication. 3 APIM products, 3 policy sets, all pointing to the same backend. Each client gets the interface it needs. Backend stays clean. This is part 26 of the Azure series. Subscribe and keep going. Next up, Azure Redis Cache. Let me bring it all together. Azure API Management puts a controlled, observable gateway in front of all your APIs. Clients never call your backends directly. They call APIM. APIM applies policies. APIM calls the backend. Policies transform what APIM can do without touching backend code. Rate limiting. JWT validation. Response caching. Header transformation. Apply once in the gateway. Works for every backend behind it. Products and subscriptions give you controlled access tiers. Free, basic, premium, each with its own rate limits and quota. Full visibility into who calls what and how often. The developer portal removes the friction from API onboarding. Auto-generated, always current, self-service key management. The patterns it enables: versioning, BFF, legacy wrapping, solve problems that would otherwise require significant engineering effort. This is part 26 of the Azure series. Subscribe and keep going.